Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of Manova International. Quick note up front, my name is Tom-Oliver Regenauer, and as you will realize in a few minutes, I'm not a native speaker, hence be with my German accent. Luckily, my guest will do most of the talking. That being said, let's bring him on. Welcome, Greg Reese.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thanks for taking time. And instead of me introducing you, I guess a lot of people know you because of your work that you did at Infowars, and then you have the Reese Report and your own homepage. And I think you are mostly famous for the short videos that you are doing online that are also getting translated over here. But maybe if you can give a quick introduction on not only the work, but who's Greg Reese?
Well, I'm grew up in America, born in California, grew up in Ohio, been all over the States, been all over the world. Spent most of my life ignoring politics, I've always been into like, I guess what people would call conspiracy theories. You know, the more bizarre the tale, the more curious I am to dig into it and see if there's any truth to it. I've always, been under the impression that, I was born a slave and that we've all been born slaves and that we live on some kind of human farm. That's always kind of been my take. What got me involved with Infowars, I guess 6-7 years ago, 2018, was I didn't vote for Trump in 2016 because I figured he was same, but there were some things that happened in 2017 that got my attention and made me start thinking maybe there is going to be some kind of revolution of some sort against the global system. And so I gave him like a 50-50 shot, which lasted about till 2021. After January 6th and the shots, I realized Trump was most likely same, and now it's quite obvious that he is. And so that's basically my story. I've been mostly similar to you. My background is in art, music, film, things I'm kind of looking forward to getting back into actually now, because that's really where the joy in life is. Politics is a horrible, ugly world of just bullshit and lies. So
yeah, I've called it a Truman Show. It's curated reality and has basically nothing to do with real life. So
yeah,
maybe on your background a little bit. You've been in the army, is that correct? So you've
Marine Corps.
Marine Corps
even. Yeah.
So how long have you been there?
Marine Corps. I wrote this in my books. It might sound shocking, but I wrote a book of my life, and I joined the Marine Corps in when I was 19 years old. It was 1990. It was right after Desert Storm, and it looked like it was going to be World War III back then. In fact, it turned out to be peacetime. I served during peacetime, which is a very rare time for America. For most people listening, I would think. But I actually joined because I was a very angry kid, and I had some experiences with the Jesuits actually at a very young age that I've since learned was the cause of my anger. But at the time, I had no idea. I just knew I wanted to see the world burn and I wanted to help. And I joined the Marine Corps knowing that the U.S. military was run by the industrial complex and it was all for profit for big corporations. But I thought it was an opportunity where I could go kill a bunch of people and not go to jail for it and get, kind of get the anger out of my system. Yeah. And what happened when I was there was amazing. I actually got out. Technically, I got out on a Section 8, which means I'm insane. But what happened was I had a very religious experience where I saw like a blinding light. I experienced missing time. This was in the desert during the biggest live fire training exercise in the military at the time, CAX. And when it was all done, I no longer had that anger that I once had. I mean, I still get angry, obviously, but that anger that I had that was brutal was just taken away from me. It was one of the most amazing things in my life. And then I told that story to my command in the Marine Corps, and they didn't understand me at all. And after several weeks, I think even months of talking to my chain of command and I was basically telling them what I just told you. I was like, look, now that I don't have this anger anymore, I don't want to, and I know you guys are just going to have me go kill for whatever profit you want to make. I can't do that anymore. So you got to let me go. And eventually they let me go, but it was, I got honorable discharge. So it's not that bad.
Yeah.
But they designated me as a narcissistic subversive, which I think is pretty cool too. So
could take that as a compliment if you read, I guess General Smedley Butler's War is a Racket piece. And that's why I was asking, because I was wondering why is somebody like you, who's against the state, who's obviously critical towards authorities and the military-industrial complex, why is somebody joining the army or the Marine Corps? But it sounds as if that was at an age where there was not a conscious decision about doing something for the country, but rather some like personal motivation.
I lied. I told everyone, like, because my family, it was out of left field, because I was kind of a music hippie kind of kid, so everyone was concerned, like, why are you going? Why are you volunteering? And I said, I want to support my country, but I was completely lying. I was 19 years old. I wasn't about to be like, because I want to go kill everyone, but to be, there are a lot of people like that. When I got in the Marine Corps, there's three types of people in the Marine Corps. There's mostly moron idiots who think they're doing the right thing. No offense by that, but I think most would agree if they're listening. The other are guys that are going to go to jail, and the judge said, well, you can go to jail or you can join the Marine Corps. And then there are people like me, psychos. I mean, I'm not a psycho anymore, but I was at the time, I think.
Yeah, I think if you're young, you can relate to that. I did a lot of stupid stuff when I was young too. So I wasn't into going to the army, but that's a different thing in Europe in comparison to Germany, to the US anyway, because in Europe you are not told to be a patriot or to fight for your country, and usually we don't have wars. We are not involved in foreign wars in comparison to the US that is dropping democracy everywhere.
Yeah, and I was very fortunate because the time that I was in, I have great memories. All my memories are training, and they're great. I mean, at the time we complained because it was miserable, but it made you. I don't think I've ever been really stressed out since, because they just really build up a certain level of tolerance to stress, which is great. And the most important thing is I was in, I never had to go kill anyone for corporate greed. I mean, I do feel bad for a lot of American vets because they get thrown under the bus, because they get blamed for the sins of their country. And most of them joined with a good heart. They really believed all the nonsense,
Yeah.
Wir bei Manova möchten mit unabhängigem Journalismus die Spaltung überwinden. Und wir freuen uns sehr, wenn Sie uns dabei unterstützen mit einer kleinen oder gern auch größeren Spende. Vielen Dank.
Yeah, sure. They're loaded with propaganda. So
yeah.
But I mean, it's a funny, at least from the outside, it's a funny mix. So somebody that is into music and you consider yourself being a young hippie at the time, going to the army, and then at some point after that, the period, do you consider, how did you go into, let's say, journalism, or do you even consider yourself being a journalist, or is it a podcaster, or what's the title that you would
I
land
hate
on?
titles. I'm not a big fan of titles. I've never been a big fan of titles. But if I were to choose one, I would just say I'm an artist, because all I'm doing is I've been writing, I've been making music, and I've been making video for film. I started off on Super 8mm when I was 8 years old. I made a film in my sandbox, and these are my passions. And even back then, I didn't like calling myself an artist because I don't like labels. But like I said, if I have to, I'd rather be called an artist than a journalist. I have very little respect for journalism. I think journalism is just propagandism. And so all I do, I think, is I take things that I think are important, things that I think are worth looking at for everyone, and I try to condense it and summarize it into a 5-minute video, which, in my opinion, is an art form that I've been working on.
Yeah, that's true. It's a unique format you have there, and along with your voice, a very impressive format as well, because it's on point, it's very short, it's concise, and you are presenting a variety of topics. And I can relate to that, because I think one of the hardest things getting my website set up was finding something to write on the header, like titles. I hate it. And I'm doing
titles are tough. That's probably
yes.
was the most frustrating thing for me, was titles.
Yes, and I'm doing a bunch of things like all over the place, from music to writing to like jobs and stuff, and then you have to choose one, and that's the thing you are. So
yeah.
But anyway, and you wrote a book. When did that happen?
Interesting, actually. I wrote the book. Okay, so it's in 2012 when Obama got reelected. I realized everyone's going deep asleep, and this awakening that I thought was going to happen starting in 2004, I was like, it's not going to happen. We're going to go into tyranny, and we're going to be stuck in this digital prison planet. And so what am I going to do? Am I going to be like a miserable old man? And I was like, no, I can't be that. So I decided to come to peace with the idea. So I actually spent 3 years in an ashram, and I was actually chosen to be like the guardian of this temple. So I was alone for 3 years in this temple. I was about 2 miles away from the ashram. So during the day, I'd go there. And during that time, I actually achieved my goal. I came to peace with the world we live in. And most of that was done through writing my book. And I wrote my whole story, which started at age 5. I had a weird experience with the Jesuit order. I would call it ritual abuse, although it was not nearly as bad as some people that you've heard have experiences. Mine was more psychological, but it definitely had an effect on my life. I mean, that was the root cause of my anger that I talked about earlier for the Marine Corps and stuff like that. And so I wrote this book, and I finished it in 2017. The book is really what helped me completely let go of my past. Like, after writing this book, I was just so sick of it, and I was just so done with my past. And this past that really haunted me for most of my life, all of a sudden was gone, and I've been in the present ever since, which is a complete blessing. The book is called Sex, Drugs, and Om. I really should market it more. I never do. I am very proud of it. Like, I think I would love to write a second book. Writing that book was probably my favorite project ever, probably because it lasted a long time. I like, the process of creativity is really the joy. It's the doing of it. And so once it's done, there's a certain sadness because it's over. And so the book is great because the book takes a while to do, at least for me.
Yeah, and working on something like a book is it's like meditation. You are like focused. There's a tunnel that you move into, and the rest of the world kind of disappears for a while.
Yeah,
that's why I love writing. It's like therapy in the end.
Yeah,
writing stuff. So it's a personal book as it contains the story, or is it a political book because the title sounds political somewhat?
Yeah, well, I think it's fairly unique in that it's in some sense it's a story of a man who is coming to realize a dark path, a shadow work, right? In many ways, it's personal shadow work. But my story involves awakening up to the global conspiracy. So there's all kinds of stuff about the global conspiracy that's in there. So it's almost a conspiracy theory book. It's a spiritual book. I go into very great detail as to the different breathing techniques and meditation techniques that I use to be able to think more clearly and overcome certain things. So it's a lot of different things. But I've had people that are fans of my work have read it, and I've heard back, and people seem to enjoy it, because I've had a lot of people say that after reading it, it makes me make more sense to them, because I think it really explains exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Okay. And is that like available? I mean, it's
on Amazon. I self-published it on Amazon. So if you were to search, it comes right up. Sex, Drugs, and Om. Om spelled O-M.
We'll link that under the video. So
yeah, and it should come right up. I appreciate it, because I should push it. I'm not very good at marketing. I need an assistant.
Is that on your homepage? I haven't seen it on the homepage, I think.
It's not. No, like I said, it should be on my website. It's not even on my website.
Yeah, that's what I meant, their website. Exactly. They should put it on the website at least.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Because I heard you say it, but I didn't find it on the website.
Yeah,
so
I'm lucky I sell copies. Occasionally I sell it. Occasionally I'll sell a few.
Okay. Yeah, then I want to have one. So
all right.
Moving forward there, yeah, so it seems that with the book you already moved into kind of it's not journalism, but it's authoring work and a thought process of pulling things together, understanding the world around you, and obviously transgenerational organized crime that runs the globe in some way or form, shape or form. So that was 2017, you said, finished that, the book, right?
Yeah.
And how did you end up, I mean, it's not common that you just walk into some place and then the next day you are broadcasting to millions of people on a huge channel, because Infowars at the time, at least to some extent, I guess, had more viewers than some mainstream media outlets and mainstream channels. So you would have millions of people watching the show, I guess. So how did that happen?
Well, so I'm at the ashram where I've been for 3 years. I finished writing the book in November of 2017. Right then, as soon as I finished the book, and it's interesting because I think the very last page is like reflecting back on because I have a wild story. I mean, the main reason I wrote the book was because everyone in my life says you need to write a book. I mean, that's everyone. I have a reputation for people not really understanding what the hell's going on in my head and knowing that I live a kind of a wild, adventurous life. So the very last page, I think I say something like, I wonder what the rest of my life is going to bring or what's next. And then as soon as I finished reading the book or writing the book was basically right when I started seeing those things that I briefly mentioned. I saw Trump was bombing the Marine Corps was bombing the heroin fields in the Middle East. And then once I saw that, and the media wasn't covering it at all. And I was like, maybe there is some type of war waging behind the scenes. And so I decided I wanted to get involved. Also in 2017, in April of 2017, I bought my first Bitcoin when it was $1,200. And by November of 2017, it was at 20 grand and kind of blew my mind. That was my first experience with crypto, which was a great little ride. And and up until then, I've been used to being poverty. I'd say I was very comfortable living in poverty levels, struggling artist. I was never really money focused. I was just more interested in making art. And so I took some Bitcoin and I moved to Hawaii and I rented a cabin. I went to Hawaii because I've been there before and I consider it to be one of the most magical places on earth. And so I went there and then I would just make videos every day. Every morning I'd wake up and I'd pray to God. I'd say, God, please get me involved in this fight for mankind against the evil transgenerational crimes that, and then I go about making videos and trying to, stay focused on that. And then I'd say another prayer at night. And then pretty much right after I moved into this house in Volcano, Hawaii, the volcano, which the city was named after, which was just 3 miles away from my home, erupted. It was a huge eruption in 2018. And it dumped in my water catchment, which is where I drink my water. So I knew that my water was completely contaminated. And so I had an Infowars water filter with me because I was a fan of the show. I've been listening to Infowars since 2004. And then Infowars announced a contest. They said we're having a contest to get new reporters and new editors. And I never really thought I would get hired as a reporter. I'm very modest, to put it lightly. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in my work. So I was like, but I knew I could be an editor. I knew I had very strong confidence in my editing skills. So I was like, I can be an editor. So I started submitting videos to their contest. And then one of those videos was an ad for the water filter because I got a test kit. I tested the water before and I tested it after. And I was very happy to see that my filter was 99.99%. So I was awesome. So then I submitted this ad, and the ad is what got me a phone call. When I posted the ad, I got a phone call from Infowars and they said, hey, we like your ad. We'd like permission to run it. And I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And then now that I had their phone number in my phone, what I did then was I just moved from Hawaii to Austin, Texas. I actually did some research and I found where the studio was, which is not easy to do. Like they keep it very well hidden. I found this. I staked it out. And then once I got settled in, I called them up and I was like, hey, remember me? I moved here. Would you hire me? So I kind of deliberately put them on the spot like that. And it worked out great. Rob Dew said, meet me for lunch. So I had lunch with Rob Dew. And then by the end of lunch, he made me an offer and I showed up the next, week. I think it was a few days later, I showed up for my first day on the job. And I agree with you. I thought it was very strange. The whole thing was very strange. But like I said, this is my life. I'm very used to, I'm not surprised by these things because I do tend to think we live in a magical realm, if you will,
yes. My life, I'm not sure if it might be as wild. I lived in 20 plus or so countries and traveled the world, and I've not been obviously in the Marine Corps, but I did a lot of other weird things in the musical realms and whatnot. So, and I've never planned anything in my life, and still it worked much better than all the guys that went to university. Yeah. And if I meet them today, usually they are, second, third, fifth wife, third house, and mortgage, and they look pretty old in comparison. So
yeah, I can agree. Yeah.
Okay. And then I heard you talking in I'm not sure where that was, but obviously a little bit of preparation. I heard you talking about the time at Infowars. So the working atmosphere there was obviously fine. So you said you're not into having authority. You're not into authority. Obviously, you want to have your freedom working. And obviously, you enjoyed working there. And you've basically had the freedom to come up with topics and content that you wanted to produce. So there was no line of...
You're asking all the right questions, to be honest. Like, if you were to just let me tell my story, I would probably say exactly what I'm saying just by answering your questions, because these are the right questions. Yeah, so I don't like authority. In fact, I've spent as much as I could not working. Like, I was a carpenter and a plumber at the first part of my life. And I would work for contractors, and I would work as little as possible. I would find people I could work for where I could choose to work what I wanted to work, because I was more excited about going home and making music and videos and stuff that wasn't really paying. And so I would just work enough to pay cheap rent, cheap food, go home and get busy on creativity and stuff. I've even worked for, and I hate my boss. Every boss I've ever had, I just naturally despise, because I have
same here.
I have issues with authority. Anyone who's telling me what to do, I just automatically despise them. I've even worked for a good friend of mine once, who I was like really close with. And then within weeks of working for him, I was like, couldn't stand him anymore, you know? And I know that's my problem, whatever. But Alex Jones is easily the best employer I've ever had in my life. He's never told me what to do. There's only been 3 times where he requested a video, and those 3 times the requests were right on. They were great, and I was impressed by his his ability to do that. So I really can't say anything bad about him as a boss at all. I had total freedom at Infowars. When I was hired, I wasn't really hired to be a reporter. I was hired to be a switcher, an editor, and then if I had free time to make reports. And I started cranking out reports as much as I could. And within a few months, Alex became a big fan of my work. And then within probably a year, I was exclusively just doing the Reese report there. Okay. But it was always whatever. It was just, I picked the story, I wrote it, and I never even had to run it by someone. Like my first day, I remember I asked, I was like, okay, who do I show this to before I can upload it? And the look I was given was like disgust. They were like, we don't have time for that. Just upload it, you know? So the only orders I was given was pick a subject you think is important, do your best to tell the truth, and try to get as many done as you can, you know?
Mm-hmm. Now, maybe the reason Alex didn't get involved is he's too busy with himself to some extent, because he's a media personality.
Well, he kind of ran the place. Sure. He was not very good at delegating authority. There are like official directors, titled directors and stuff there, but Alex pretty much runs the place, and it's impressive actually. He said once on Joe Rogan that he's kind of retarded, and then there's a lot of truth to that. He's I wouldn't say retarded. I think we're all a bit retarded, but he's kind of autistic in a way. Like he has a photographic memory, and it is amazing that he's able to, because the place is. One of my favorite things that he used to say was he would call it like a ragtag crew, you know, and that is what it is. It's a real mixed bag of all kinds of people. The one common denominator is everyone who works there, at least to me, it seems like, are curious and looking for the truth and want a better life. And but it was chaos that worked out really well somehow.
Yeah. That's as long as it's doing what it should do, it's fine. And sometimes creative chaos gets more things done than a strict hierarchical order. But did you ever have any like internal, you know, was there any conflict when that whole Sandy Hook thing blew up, and maybe was there any repercussion as to that whole Bohemian Grove thing? Have you ever come across anything, you know, that in terms of work that has been put out was legally, you know, problematic afterwards? Or did you have any legal problems with anything you put out?
No, not me. No, I came on, Sandy Hook was was before my time there.
Yeah.
And my experience with the Sandy Hook thing was, first of all, I think personally, because I remember when it happened, in my opinion, in America, it was the biggest story since 9/11. It was the Sandy Hook. And I've seen 3-hour-long videos on the subject where they don't repeat anything. There's so much to that story. And I remember at the time, there was two things happening at the time. One, I was an audience member of Infowars, and I was wondering, why isn't Alex talking about this more? Why isn't Alex talking about this more? I mean, it makes sense. Alex really isn't a conspiracy theorist. He always sort of focuses on the documents and, read the documents. And then the other thing going on in my head is, why would they fake it? Why would they do this? It's very risky to do to fake it, because then you can get caught faking it. It's a lot easier to just murder people. And we know that these people have no problem murdering people. So why would they fake it? Never understood it until I started working for Infowars, and Infowars started getting attacked for Sandy Hook. And then I was like, they did it to get Alex. They did it to bait him, because they knew eventually he would take the bait. That's what I think. And because this is funny to me, everyone acts like, well, maybe they didn't see it, but there was 2 days. Okay. So Sandy Hook trial, any audience member of the show, anyone who's been paying attention for years, could see a major transformation in Alex. He started gaining a lot of weight. He was obviously very stressed out. What was he on the hook for, like, what, $70 billion or some ridiculous thing? I can't remember. It was the whole thing was absolutely ridiculous. But after that happened, he started smoking again, which was a big deal, because I don't think he smoked since he was a kid, and he would always give everyone shit because I used to smoke there. But he started smoking again. He started drinking a lot and put on a lot of weight. He was an absolute mess. It was obvious. And then there was 2 days in, I think it was summer or fall of 2023, where he was on air. I think it was the same week, 2 days at least. I think it was 3 days, but it was definitely 2 days. I remember. And he went on for about an hour each day. And what he said was, he would say things like, he was talking about how both his parents have been involved with deep state research activities forever. He would say things like his entire family, since all the way back to the founding of America and before, had been involved in, like, good guy deep state things. And he even said that some people in his family were in the bad guy deep state things, but they didn't know it. He said things like, if I was controlled opposition, I wouldn't know it. He said things like, Elon Musk has all the appearances of, like, the Antichrist, and he was saying it all in a way that, to me, I'm sorry if you're hearing this beeping thing on your end. I don't know if you are.
No, I don't.
Okay, I'll ignore it. I thought it was the most fascinating thing I've ever seen as an audience member, and I've always kind of considered myself an audience member, because I've been an audience member since 2004, and I've only worked for him for 6 years. So it was unbelievable, because what I thought we were witnessing a man figuring out live on air that he was MK Ultra'd and that his family have been involved in this thing for forever. And it looked like he was figuring it out as he was saying it, like he was like, oh my God, I've been duped,
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, he went through a transformation where then he completely changed his life around, and now he's, dapper and GQ and buff and talking like a fool, in my opinion. And so when I saw that in 2023, it was painful to watch. I have love for the man, and I honestly feel like he was duped, and I feel like he saw that. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of love is one thing, respect is another. I don't have a whole lot of respect for people that are pushing this agenda. I consider them to be Judas goats on the slave farm, and I don't like it. But my heart did break for him. And I knew at that moment I'm going to have to start distancing myself somehow. And I'm surprised it took as long as it did, because that was about a year before I quit. It was about a year later when I finally quit.
So you quit the end of 2024, right?
Yeah, I quit in December. I gave 2 weeks notice, 2 weeks before Christmas. And
okay.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, understandable, because I mean, looking at the content you produced and the way you come across as to what you tell the audience, what I can get from the reports in between the lines, even not necessarily only the content you're talking about, but the way you talk about it. There was a point where I also felt like as an audience member, I'm not constantly watching Infowars anymore, because I'm just pissed with all the product placements and Alex rants. But obviously everybody knows Alex Jones, and I've watched that from the very beginning every now and then. But you didn't seem to fit there anymore at a certain time. And I think that when I realized that was around maybe early 2024, so something like that. So I felt there's a divergence of what you are doing and what they are doing, and I thought, why you are not going and creating
I could have stayed. I mean, I'm sure they would have had me. I'm sure they would have. And they were paying me well. So I walked away from a good sized paycheck. I walked away from my healthcare package. And I said earlier in the interview, I think I've never been that money driven. So I'm okay with that. The reason I walked away was because I don't want to be associated with that. I want it to be known. The reason I joined, and I talked about this a few times on air before. The reason I joined back in 2018 was because I wanted it to be publicly known. I wanted to make a public record. This is where I stand. I stand against the slave farm. I stand against all this. I'm totally against it. I just wanted to be clear about that. And that's the same reason why I quit. I quit for the same reason. I just want it to be known. I'm not down with this. I'm not down with pushing Elon Musk. That's the biggest gripe I have with Infowars is anyone who does any research can see that this guy, and Alex even admitted it back in that time I was talking about. Alex even said, yeah, he's a front man. And now he's not saying that anymore. So it makes me sick, in fact. And these are people I consider friends, even brothers. But I hope some of them still come to a moment. But I'll be honest, I've had personal conversations with a couple people there, and I've been very frank, and I think they know what's going on right now. And I think the people I talk to aren't happy about it. But like I said, the paycheck's good. And some of these people have kids and wives and stuff. And that breaks my heart, though. I still have a hard time. I'd rather be broke than be Judas goading all of humanity into this digital AI control grid.
Speak for you. That's my attitude. I left every job that I felt is crossing moral, borders or whatever. I mean, there's a certain point where you have to either be yourself and leave, or, as you said, be a fraud in the end. Yeah. Towards yourself. So, but anyway, thanks for that background. And one can feel that it's still kind of touching you because it was obviously
it is. Yeah,
an intense period of time.
Well, I've been a fan of the show since 2004, so it is
it's not easy walking away. Yeah. I get that. So, but I mean, what I'm interested in is also it's like with Tucker Carlson. If over here, obviously people behave as if Donald Trump was the president of Germany or Austria, because they are all MAGA, Gaza over here as well, even though they're not even living in the US. But all the folks that have or a lot of the people that have criticized the state and big pharma and whatnot, the military-industrial complex for the last 4 or 5 years, are now cheering on a new king because they are, telling you that the world is going to be saved by Trump and the likes. And then you have Tucker Carlson talking about UFOs and the Epstein list maybe and whatnot, and they're bringing the what is that, the JFK records. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that's all just a limited hangout, and that we maybe get a few thousand pages of stuff that we already knew. Everybody knows who killed JFK, I guess. So what concerns me is the stuff that they are not talking about, Tucker Carlson and also Alex Jones or all the other mainstream alternative media. So obviously they are not talking too much about what's happening in Gaza, where we are now seeing that the US wants to buy it, annex it, whatever, invade it, own it. How do you explain that, or how do you see that in your, I don't know, you are living in the US. How's the reality over there? Are people on the street? Are people in town? Are they actually not seeing it? Is everybody bored and APEC? And is that the mentality there? Because that's what comes across in the media overseas, obviously, in the mainstream media. There's not a lot of resistance, and it looks as if the entire US, is cheering on Israel and that regime, that obviously is Zionist regime. It's not about the religion, it's about the Zionism. Is that the reality in towns, stores, shops, talks?
Well, unfortunately, I live in a very small town with a great sort of, the Amish live just 10 minutes away from me, so it's kind of out in the country. A lot of horse owners, a lot of nature people and stuff. So there's very few there's not much political talk around here. Unfortunately, the local gun range has a Israeli flag above it, though, which is a little crazy. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of Americans that have been brainwashed into this whole idea of, they're our greatest ally. And they don't even know why they're saying that, because one of the things I've learned clearly after living through COVID is that people are retarded. And I've always known that I was. Like, I figured that out at 12 years old. At 12 years old, I was like, Greg, if you don't be careful, you're going to fall into a ditch and kill yourself, So I've been adapting to my own retardation my whole life. But what I realized through COVID is some people have no idea that they're retarded, and they're just like, so it's unbelievable. I did a poll on Twitter. I said, like, do you think that Trump and Elon are defeating the bad guys? And I was actually a little bit surprised, because it was like 36% said they believed it and the rest said they didn't. Now, these are people that follow me and they follow my work, and I only have like 90,000 people following me on Twitter. So, I would hope that people that follow me are not as, right-winger as the average people. But I would say that the American right wing is absolutely as dumb as the American left wing. I think anyone who identifies with a wing, right off the get-go, that person's an idiot. You want to find idiots, you just, you're a right-winger? Oh, okay, great. So it is pretty sad. It's horrific to see. That's one of my biggest, I don't want to say fears, but it breaks my heart knowing that the world sees America is responsible for what's happening in Gaza. People like to blame it on Israel, but it's America. People like to say, Israel owns America. No. It's America. It's like we're obviously the muscle and the weaponry behind the whole thing. So I'm not taking Israel off the hook, but yeah, it's I'd say it is, having gone through all that. Yeah, it's about as bad as it looks. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not even about Israel or America. I mean, I'm living in Switzerland, and that's where, I don't remember the exact, I think it's 1897 or 1903 or something, when they had the Zionism Congress in Basel, Switzerland, where Theodor Herzl and the guys met and basically talked about colonization of Palestine, and basically came up with it's a fascist concept. You know?
And I mean, Herzl's a scumbag, and the Zionists are just low-brow thug scumbags, and they have their own little synagogue of Satan thing going on for themselves. But what people seem to forget is that if there was no Switzerland, like you said, there would be no Israel. If there was no Crown of England, there would be no Israel. If there was no Vatican, there would be no Israel. If there was no America, there would be no Israel. So you can't really blame it all on the Zionists. The Zionists are just the useful idiot thug scumbags that are being used by the powers that be for some reason. And I think that reason is a pole shift. I think this is the same reason why Trump is now talking about Greenland and Canada becoming the North American Union. I do not think that this is baby stepping towards a one world government, because there's no reason to do that. There's always been a one world government, and there's a lot of good reasons for them to keep things under the appearances of sovereignty. There is no sovereignty, but So why are they doing it now? The only thing that makes sense to me is they're doing it now because there is going to be some type of, for lack of a better word, pole shift, some type of major cataclysmic event that is going to change the face of the earth. Russia is openly talking about this. They're saying a pole shift's coming, and they're saying that Siberia is going to thaw, and they're spending billions of dollars preparing for this pole shift. America and your home country, though, Germany and Western Europe, they're doing something different. They seem to be preparing for like consolidation and liquidation, as if they're going to lose land, as if maybe, and then Florida just got 10 inches of snow when Moscow hardly had a winter at all. So things are very weird right now.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, as far as the organizational part, let's say the empire, the British Empire, might be the organizational structure that's running the show that's what I'm arguing, since a few hundred years, because obviously with the British East India Company, the Bank of England and all the central banking that came from that, that might be the organizational driving network behind things, if you don't go into the spiritual realms, but just from an organizational and monetary point of view. And they've used Zionism as a maybe tool, and they're even more atheist Zionists nowadays, or Christian Zionists nowadays, than Jewish Zionists. People don't know that, and they can't diversify between the state of Israel and that obviously right-wing extremist regime, the Jewish people, and Zionism. And I lived there. I've lived in Israel and Gaza and worked there for like 1.5, nearly 2 years. So I know the place, and I know that the people that are working there in the hummus store or whatever, they know what kind of government they have. And most people just want to live in peace. But then the second part you're talking about now, that's interesting, because people that are conspiracy realists and research things obviously are looking into war. People are expecting a hot war maybe in the Middle East because of Iran and Israel and that whole thing.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Or they are looking into Europe for World War III type of scenario, so the next European war that the US gets involved a few years later. You're saying, what is your... You had done an episode on this, or two even, I think. One on the pole shift and on the cataclysm, I think.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I've never felt so confident. For the past decades, I've been like beating my head against the wall. Oh, not beating my head. I enjoy it. I'm very curious. I'm a very curious person. I've had a good life. I enjoy questioning things. Like I said, I was born growing up feeling like I'm a slave on a human farm. So I'm okay with that, and I can still have fun. But I've always been like, what's going on? What's going on? And really, it's only been the past few months where it just seems so clear to me. And I haven't done a report on it, because I only do my research reports on things that I think I can prove are real, So I think that's what's happening. And I think the ones who run this place, they understand it. They know what's going on. All my research into secret societies has always pointed to the cataclysm, because that does seem to be the biggest secret. For decades, every subject I pick to research always seems to end with cataclysm. Cataclysm is always the answer. And I've questioned that. I've been like, are you obsessed with cataclysm? Is that why you keep seeing it? But I don't think so. I think that's just what makes sense to me. And so I think the talk of war, they want us to expect a war. That's what they want. They want us to think we're all about to have this massive World War III. I think what's about to happen is Trump is going to, they are going to level Gaza, and they are going to rebuild it, and they're going to say this is peace. They're going to call it peace. And the dumb morons will celebrate, because they will. We've all lived through COVID. You're kidding yourself if you don't think they're going to celebrate world peace when that happens. And then Trump is going to get Reza Pahlavi put in power in Iran somehow peacefully. They're going to somehow manage, I don't know, maybe they'll just assassinate the mullahs, or maybe, who knows? But I believe the mullahs are all bought and paid for as well. The mullahs are playing ball for the crown. Everyone in power in the Middle East is owned, and they're all actors. So that's what I think is going to happen. Reza Pahlavi will be put in power in Iran, and that'll be celebrated as world peace too. And then Trump will be celebrated as this incredible man of peace. And they're already saying it. They're already, there's already people in the Middle East that are comparing him to, Cyrus the Great. And so I think that's going to happen. And the fundamental Christians, the Zionist Christians, will see him then as the Antichrist, which will then help the psychology of of moving the herd forward and all that stuff. And I think the reason they're doing it is simply because of this pole shift. And there's a ton of resources there in the Middle East, not just oil. And there's a ton of resources. It's a very obviously a coveted, valuable place. And I think they're sectioning the world off into certain sections to survive the pole shift, to get us through the pole shift. I even think that's why they're talking about UFOs now, because I think we're going to start seeing UFOs and maybe even non-humans, because I think maybe they're going to play a part in helping us navigate from Pisces to Aquarius. If you survive this shift, then I think you maybe could look at the new golden age on the human farm, because I think they'll then let us, start breeding again. Everyone, come on, make money and breed, make money and breed. So
maybe Trump is
going on.
So maybe Trump is leading us to the golden age that he's talking about.
I think there is some truth to that. Yeah, I think when it's all said and done, I use the word farm all the time because I think it's very similar. And just like on a farm, the farms that us humans have, there's different seasons, different reasons. Sometimes you might have to cull your herd, this and that. I think that's all they're doing. They're just moving the herd into the new age. And once we're there, then they'll be like, all right, they'll allow a bit of a golden age. I personally think that the real golden age is going to be in Russia, in Siberia, probably 20, 30 years from now. We're going to start seeing that if you're alive.
It's depending on what kind of time frame, you're looking at. Is it 2,000, 5,000, 20, 30,000 years? So there's a lot of options. And I used to say, I don't believe anything, but I do think everything is possible. So because nowadays and with the information we can access, it seems quite plausible. And I've looked into that thesis as well, as you laid it out now.
Like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm wrong, because I don't know. That's just my best guess. Yeah,
let's hope we are all wrong.
Yeah.
In the end. And we are hopefully getting into that golden age where there's world peace and everybody's living a prosperous life without having democracy.
I do honestly think it will get better. I think there's going to be, I've done a lot of research on these vaccines, and it's in the actual patent. In the actual Moderna patent, it actually says that there's over 100 synthetic pathogens programmed into these nano, lipid gel things, and external frequencies can trigger them. And so this is another thing I expect. I mean, we're not there yet. The Judas goat's got to herd us into this thing. I think I actually met a person. I didn't meet him in person. I just had a phone conversation, who convinced me that they are an insider. They're a German. He was German, but he speaks 5 languages, and he just had he didn't really necessarily tell me anything I didn't know, but just the way he speaks, and it just convinced me that he knows what he's talking about. And what he told me is he confirmed the pole shift. He says the world is being sectioned off into 4 sections, and they're going to release another pandemic, but this time it's going to be real. Along the lines of what I'm saying, those who are vaxxed are going to have something inside of them that can be triggered externally. It'll be called something, they can make it anything. Marburg is listed in the patent. Ebola is listed in the patent. All these things are in these vaccines, allegedly, according to the patent. And what he told me was that this happens every couple thousand years, and when it does, they usually like to kill an entire generation, because it makes moving forward in the future. He used the term farming too, as this is all just farming techniques for whoever these friggin' farmers are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not astonished by the farming language, because if you talk to investment bankers in London or other folks, they're always talking about cattle for, normal people. Yeah. And that's not even the high-ranking folks. That's just the guys that made some money in I don't know, Citibank of London or something. And they already feel like the rest of the world is cattle just because they can afford a Bentley or something. Yep. So it's crazy times. But maybe since we're close to 1 hour and I want to wrap up there, but I heard you say that that didn't seem optimistic either. The last time I heard that was, I don't know, where were you? An interview. Doesn't matter. And you said you are most likely going to be killed by one of these mobs. You don't know which mob, but it's one of these mobs. So if you are referring to the US, what kind of mob are you referring to? Is it really like the political mobs? Do you think that whatever mRNA gets triggered and there's the hive mind mob that gets activated? Or it didn't sound too optimistic though. So,
well, I am actually more optimistic than I think I know. I can't remember exactly what interview that was either, but I do remember feeling a bit pessimistic at the time. I do remember that. But I was referring at the time, to whether it's the right-wing mob or it's the left-wing mob or it's the Christian mob or the Jewish mob or whatever, any mob, because there's just there's very few people that are thinking for themselves and consider themselves anything other than an animal. A lot of people, I think, identify with being an animal, from my perspective. But no, I don't think so. I think I'll probably live to a ripe old age, and I think I might actually witness incredible. I think a lot of us are going to witness amazing things, things that, like this pole shift. The pole shift alone, I think, is an extraordinary time to be alive. My thought now is, I would like to, I'm trying to think of solutions, like what can, because everyone's like, well, yeah, you're black-pilled and you have no solutions,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the only solutions at this point is become strong. Become as strong as you can. Strong physically, strong mentally, strong financially, strong spiritually. Become as independent, as strong as you can. That means happy too. Follow your heart. Do whatever it is that's going to make you have a rich life and not follow one of these mobs. Stay out of the mobs. The mobs will get you killed. If you can at least stay out on the fringe and stay strong, as strong as you can. And I think it's worth it. I really do. Because, I'm not, a lot of people talk about, like, what is this place? Is this some type of a soul trap? That I think is a bit pessimistic. I am optimistic in the sense that I do believe in God, and I do believe that we're here for a reason. And I do believe there's very valuable things we can accomplish here on a personal, spiritual level. And that's really where I'm back to now. Like, that's where I was before I got involved in all this madness as far as the Reese report. And I'm going to head in there again now. Like, I hope to spend the rest of my life in a more peaceful, productive, spiritual way, helping myself and helping the people around me to have better lives. I think that's the best we can ask for out of anyone, is to take care of your own cow and try to take care of the ones around you,
Right. Fully agree. Autonomy and leading a happy life is the real revolution, I think, because every other place mentally, that's where they want to have you. So you have to have a happy life filled with love and great moments and experiences. However, one last question though: if you believe in God, how do you envision that working or going together? As far as in the end, or other way around, does believing mean creationist in a sense?
I use the word God. Well, first of all, I really I used to never talk about it, and I thought it was.
If you don't want,
no. I'm just saying I used to never talk about it years ago for most of my life because I always thought it was inappropriate. But then, as I became more in the public light, I started, for whatever reason, talking about it. And then what I realized after I started talking about it is how, like, you use the word God and you guarantee you're going to trigger people because everyone has a set idea of what that means. So I'll explain when I say God. One of the reasons I like God is, one, it seems to be universal. It's the most common term. Another reason I like it is because I think it's Yogi Bhajan said God is the generative principle, the organizing principle, and the destructive principle. I kind of thought that was cool. When I speak of God, what I'm speaking of, when I pray to God, I should say, when I get on my knees and I pray to God, in my, first of all, I have no idea who I'm talking to. It's way too abstract for me to even comprehend. But the closest I can come to explaining what I'm talking to or describing is everything. God, there is nothing, in my opinion, that exists in this heliocentric realm, flat earth realm, or outside of it that is not a part of God. There's nothing that is not God. Now, this might be offensive to some people, but like the Yahweh in the Bible and stuff, I don't think that's God. That seems to be like a dragon And if not, I mean, like literally a dragon, it seems like when they describe Yahweh, especially in the Jewish texts. And if not a dragon, certainly an asshole, you know? So that's not who I'm praying to when I pray to God. And nor am I praying to Jesus or Allah or Buddha or any of these people, in my opinion. What I'm praying to is something I have no understanding of, but something that I believe I am a part of, I believe you're a part of, I believe everyone is listening to is a part of. I don't think there's anything that exists anywhere that is not God or not a part of God. And I just see this entire existence as an experience that we're all having, a very wild, wild experience that we're all having. And I think the most important thing and the most important prayer that I always have is to just keep me on my surfboard, to keep me on the wave, to keep me surfing, keep me on top of things, and to try to keep me from falling into a ditch and killing myself. And if I can do that, to do good and to try to spread some love and to try to leave this bizarre place a little bit, well, I don't know if we can change this place at all, but to change ourselves, maybe, and to change each other on a spiritual level. This is a topic that's extremely interesting and fascinating to me, but at the same time, I have no answers whatsoever. And this is where I think faith comes in. Like, a lot of people say that they have faith, but yet they claim to know exactly what's going on, and they have a whole story. And to me, that's not faith. Faith is like a trustful, where you have no clue what's going on, but you're going to put your faith and love in it, and you're just going to fall into it and just have faith, you know? And I think there's something very beautiful and profound in that.
Sounds like a closing remark. But yeah, let's wrap up there. But is there anything that you're working on, any other stuff that people can expect you to come up with in the next few weeks and months? And where do people find you if they want to look at Reese reports?
You can right now I'm fully funded at Substack. The Reese Report on Substack, which is on my Reese Report website. You can find, and the way I pay the bills now is I make videos behind a paywall. I usually pick them on subjects that I don't think are crucial for for our survival. Like if there's something that I think are really important for everyone to see, then I'll obviously make them public. But the ones behind the paywall, in my opinion, are some of my favorite ones, just because they're on subjects that I don't think are like super important to know, but they're very interesting. Like, for example, as soon as I get off this call with you, I'm about to wrap up my Bigfoot video. I got a 20-minute video on Bigfoot. And I think 3 years ago, I got into Bigfoot because I thought it was a joke and I just thought it would be fun. But within the first day of my research, I was like, no, Bigfoot is real. And it's a very interesting subject. So I'm very excited about the Bigfoot thing. So yeah, you can see those videos, got my Substack, and then plus you'll always get my public free reports there as well.
Do you have a channel still on YouTube or something?
I do. They actually gave it back to me. They deleted it and then they gave it back, but they're still like, I just got a notification today that they deleted a video, like an old video. Like I'm not uploading to YouTube at all because they demonetized it. And I know if I start uploading to it, they'll just delete it again. So I'm just, I have it mostly because I like YouTube. I like to watch YouTube. And the worst thing about having your YouTube channel deleted is you can't watch YouTube if you don't have a channel, you know?
Yeah, you have to fake another login.
Yeah, you got to fake another channel. So
okay, so then it's the Substack channel.
Substack, and then if you go to Reese Report has my links to like BitChute and Rumble and I can't, whatever else I have on there.
Substack as well, I guess. So that's reesereport.com.
Yeah.
Okay. Appreciate it. Hope we can repeat that at some point in time.
Yeah, I had a great time talking to you, actually. I'm glad you reached out to me. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, and have a good day.
You too.